Hi, everybody. Joe Moore here, Psychedelics Today, joined by Vince Kadlubek from Meow Wolf, the founder and chief visionary officer. How are you today, Vince?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Really glad you're able to make time. It's fun. So we're going to talk about a few things and also talk about the upcoming Bicycle Day event at Meow Wolf Denver. And it's going to be a really cool event. Can't wait to be there. Can you tell us a little bit about Meow Wolf?
Yeah, totally. Meow Wolf is a arts and entertainment production company. We're based here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We produce large scale, multimedia, dynamic and complex immersive spaces. Meow Wolf really tries to build at a monumental level and do so in a way that's just like, a truly kind of profound in-person experience. But at the heart of it, like Meow Wolf is the spirit of creative energy and trying to articulate that creative energy in the world. And the location based immersive experience is one really good primary way of doing that we have found business success, which is an important part of being able to articulate things in the world. But we also are interested in all sorts of things. So, like graphic novels, animated shows, video games, whatever. It's an attempt to bring creative spirit to the world and do that sustainably and do that in a way that's just like, you know, can have ongoing existence, I guess.
Yeah, brilliant. The success has been really interesting to watch. Now you're even able to expand beyond Santa Fe to Denver, Las
Yeah.
Vegas, and even into Texas, which is fascinating and incredible.
We have 5 of these as permanent large scale exhibition: Santa Fe, Denver, Las Vegas, Dallas, Houston. We are opening LA in 2026 and just announced that we'll be opening New York soon after that.
Great. I think we found a cheat code our first time going to the Santa Fe location was my first. And I think we went the day after Thanksgiving, which happened to be a school day while the kids were in school. And we had the place to ourselves. It was amazing. And then saw one of my favorite bands that evening at the venue. It was great. And my heart was racing just due to like the level of immersion of the experience. And I was raving about it for a good 6 months at least, trying to
That's
get
awesome.
everybody I knew to go.
Who did you
So
see? Who played?
there's a band, Kishibashi and Tall Trees, kind of indie pop rock, something along those lines. Really fun. Both New York conservatory types turned touring
Yeah.
musicians, which is lovely. The Area 15 location in Las Vegas hosted a big psychedelic conference. That was an interesting event. I love the intersection of the psychedelic community in person.
That was the Meet Delic event.
Mhm.
There's great intersection there. Got a chance to be on stage with Aubrey and Duncan on a
Mm,
podcast. It was awesome.
Duncan's so funny. Yeah, so it's been interesting to watch Meow become a known entity and recognized as a place that does phenomenal art. And I assume at this point, it's a fairly gigantic team helping concept and build stuff. Can you talk about where the team started and what it looks like at this point?
That Meow Wolf started with 12 of us in a living room wanting to start a collective, a clubhouse for expression. We wanted to throw music shows. We wanted to make art. We wanted to have lectures. We wanted to just have a place to hang out. That was back in 2008. We didn't have any money and we were all working full-time jobs and then spending our available hours going to Meow Wolf, hanging out and making stuff. The materials that we used, we got pulled out of dumpsters because we didn't have money to buy real materials. So we would just use whatever we got. Did that for 7 years. It was an open door revolving situation where anybody could join. All we really cared about was that people wanted to do stuff and make stuff. As long as you wanted to do stuff and make stuff, you were welcome to be a part of it. So hundreds of people came through during the collective days. That was a really great experience, but also, by the time 7 years later, we were so committed to it, yet it wasn't making money, and it was a difficult hobby for us to reconcile into our lives anymore. And so, we decided, like, in order for us to continue to do Meow Wolf, we have to figure out a way to do this sustainably where we can get paid and we can, like, actually make it our jobs. In 2014, 2015, we decided to launch the business and focus on building a permanent exhibition that we could sell tickets for people to visit. That was about 70 people. Two-thirds of those 70 people still work for us today, which is awesome. Now the company has evolved to over 1,000 people full-time. 300 or 400 of those are in the production side, and the rest are in the operations of the exhibitions. In addition to those people, we work with another 1,000 people plus on any given exhibition who are outside design build firms, local artists, or custom artists. The ecosystem of Meow Wolf is pretty large at this point. Yeah.
That's awesome. Talk a little bit about the April 19th event that's coming up in Denver.
So Portal is putting together an event for Bicycle Day in Denver. It's going to be renting out Meow Wolf for a full takeover. We've done these a few times. They're incredible, like programming music throughout the entire space.
Mm.
Also some speakers. So like you're in the exhibition, but you're also like you stumble upon like a dance party in one part of the exhibition. And yeah, it's just like a bicycle day celebration in partnership with Portal. Portal's actually completely running with it. And like Meow Wolf is the venue that they're working with. It's awesome, appropriate venue. But yeah, it's unlike anything, in the world to have a party inside the exhibition.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I think Duncan Trussell will do something. Reggie Watts,
Mhm.
amazing musician, comedian himself. I think I
Leonard,
read Leonard Picard might be coming.
Santa Fe, Leonard will be there. I'll be there. Yeah,
Outstanding. Do you know any of the musicians or DJs?
I don't, but I get Google pretty fast. No, Reggie's there.
If he does some music, it'll be really fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, it's rare. I'm excited about somebody's music comedy. So I really love that aspect. And that's news to me, Vince, that it's not just going to be in the little music venue space. I'm very excited about this now. Very, like 10x at least.
Yeah, throughout the entire space.
Mhm. Cool. So I want to profile you a little bit. And can you tell us about your time before Meow Wolf? What were you up to? What's your background? Fine artist or something?
No, not at all. I graduated high school here in Santa Fe and didn't want to go to college. I really just wanted to hang out with people. I wanted to have social gatherings and throw parties, like weird house parties that involved decking out the space in whatever way we could, diving into our shared psychologies, which often included substances. That social gathering and parties translated into some experimental theater stuff. We're throwing a party inside a weird space. Let's also script or improv some moments of theater inside of these spaces. I got really into writing experimental theater pieces with my friends. And then that then led into like Meow Wolf. That then led into like, okay, well, we need a space to throw parties consistently that's not like the basement of a friend's house. And we want to actually like
Mhm.
promote and we want to have this be a thing. Meow Wolf then kind of came from that. And I at first with Meow Wolf thought that I was just going to be a creative contributor, but I soon realized that everybody who was a part of Meow Wolf was way more creatively capable, especially visually. The best thing I could do for the group was put the glasses on and like dress in a certain way that like in case the cops showed up, I could be the person they trusted to talk to. Or if we needed to raise money, I could be the person who talked to potential donors. And so I became the bureaucrat and helped with that side of things for the group. That translated into me becoming the CEO once we became a business, which I was for 4 years. My evolution was always in the vein of social sculpture and trying to gather and maintain social momentum, is really at the heart of everything for me.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. And I'm realizing we haven't really described Santa Fe at all, which is a really unique place in America. And I forget that this is going out to a global audience often. So, how do we describe Santa Fe other than really interesting art town? Right.
Santa Fe in Sedona, you have the vortices and beliefs around energetic ley lines in the world. I don't know about that, but I would say that Santa Fe, for whatever reason, is a place of very high vibration that attracts people of high vibration, facilitates conversations of high vibration, and now has a culture that is just, it's always been, it's a beautiful town, a mountain town that also has rich history and culture dating back hundreds of years with native populations, Pueblo Indians, and then Spanish coming into the region. It's just always been a place of sort of fringe, like even when it was under Spanish rule, Santa Fe was so far north of Spanish rule
Sure.
that it operated independently and autonomously. So it kind of just did its thing, separate
Mm.
from anything else, and it still kind of feels like that. Like it's always been on the fringe and welcomes the fringe. It's been a spot for artists, thinkers. It's been a core place in the overall history of psychedelics. There's incredible leaders of thought leaders and of the psychedelic movement who live here. So it just has all of those things going for it. It's a real source of creative energy, generally, I'd say.
Yeah. And just for more global impact, just down the street was a really important World War II project,
Oh
Los
yeah.
Alamos Laboratories, where there's a lot of nuclear research done pre-bomb droppings. An incredible amount of people have been through this place. Incredible amount of energy has been through this place. And it's just amazing. Also, I think the country's highest capital by elevation, higher than Denver.
The lack of oxygen also might lead to the like sort of vibrational nature to it all. I sometimes think that
Mm.
like the fact that we're at 7,000 feet helps to facilitate a different level of conscious awareness. People aren't interested in the dramas of everyday life here in Santa Fe in the same way. The dramas of American life seem a little bit outside of Santa Fe.
Yeah. And I assume you've taken a visit over to Synergia Ranch.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Tango is Tango and Synergia Ranch was key to me being able to connect into the psychedelic community back in 2021. I got this like real big inspiration to connect my own personal experiences with Meow Wolf and like be able to bring this all together. And so I went to Synergia, and Synergia is where, Tango kind of like started to introduce me to various folks. And that's how I got connected to Duncan. That's how I got into the whole mix of things.
Oh, brilliant. I love that. They're such nice folks there. And they've been holding it down for quite a long time with all sorts of interesting theater stuff on their own. So, CEO for 4 years, and that must have been quite the wild ride. You're doing something new and big. Can you talk about how that went for you and some of the bigger moments within that 4 years?
Yeah, a total mind fuck of a process. At the core of it was, how is anything created? What
Mhm.
is creativity? Where does it come from? And we didn't have any money. We had no experience. I didn't have any business experience. Like we didn't have any experience going into this. And we had to sell a vision, come up with a vision and get people enrolled into that vision. And it was so far out from what seemed plausible in the moment. If you looked at us in the
Mhm.
moment, you'd be like, there's no way you guys are going to do this. But we had to believe. And it got me on this trajectory of understanding three critical components of creation. They're all non physical, you can't measure them kind of like components. The first component's imagination. And it's where you kind of tap into the divine through this thing we call imagination and allow yourself to envision, free of resistance, free of doubt. You allow yourself to envision and build something in your mind or collective mind that you love so much. Love is the second one. And love you can interchange with belief. Like these are actually very connected words from an etymological perspective. You love it and believe in it so much that you then step into the third piece, which is work work ethic, which also is willpower, which you can also say is like the spirit, like how the spirit works through us. You get to work. So you imagine and you believe, and then you work based off of that belief or based off of that love. And it was just like fully committed to that. And anything that told us we couldn't do it, we basically just said, we'll deal with that later. Like, we don't have the money. We'll deal with that later. We don't know how to build things to permit. We'll deal with that later. We don't know how to operate one of these things. We'll deal with that later. We believe that we'll get there. And then getting people to believe that. And that was just like, it's like you're constantly diving into an ethereal realm and trying to pull from that ethereal realm some like structural containers that can get other people to join you in that ethereal realm, you know? One of the key people we brought in was George R. R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones, early on, where we're like, got him to believe in this thing. And of course, his belief in it and his love for it opened the doors to other people believing it. It's like this momentum that you build. Getting George to be on the project, which happened in 2014, was the biggest domino to fall. You're dealing with this guy who's a big dreamer and a big believer. In that sense, we could get him on board, but he also has this whole universe that he's in the process of trying to finish writing about. And so it was an interesting process to get into his mind share and be a part of his heart in that way. But yeah, that was a massive domino to fall for us. And then I'd say like another huge moment was in 2019, 3 years after we opened Santa Fe. We needed to raise money to pay for our Denver and Vegas exhibitions. We needed to raise like $100+ million. And you can't just go to friends and family for that. Like, you got to go to banks and private equity firms. So then the task was, how do we get a private equity firm or a big investor to believe, to fall in love? They talk a different language and they ask for different things. That process took 1.5 years of my time. We talked to 400 people, 400 different institutions, and 399 of them said no, said you're out of your mind. One group out of New York called Invis saw it, believed in it, and took the whole round and became the investor that we still have today, who still supports us.
That's harrowing.
It was very harrowing. Totally. And in that process, it came down to the wire. We needed money. We only had 3 months left before we would have had to start laying people off and canceling projects. I had just met Invis in Orlando and started to see their interest. And they came and visited Santa Fe to do the whole diligence thing and to look into the company. After they left, it just happened to be on the night of the blood wolf moon. This was 2019 and it was like a full moon, but it was like some special full moon. And so like I literally called a friend of mine who's a witch. She's actually a mentor of Meow Wolf, and she's an amazing artist herself, but she's an ordained witch. Her name's Erica Wanamaker. I called Erica and I said, hey, what can I do tonight on this blood wolf moon to help further this process? She walked me through a series of things I could do to put out into the universe, like this group saying yes. I hold that closely because it feels like it was part of the process.
That's brilliant. Love that. And I love that you have somebody like that helping with the vision in the background too.
Yeah, Erica's phenomenal. Her art's amazing. And just as an individual, she's been a spiritual godmother of ours since we were teenagers. She's amazing.
Beautiful. So this is probably after Invis, but from what I understand, there were some folks that Disney joined at a certain point. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, around the time of bringing Invis in, we were in the middle of Denver and Vegas design and production. And we just thought that we could design and build Denver and Vegas the same way we designed and built Santa Fe. Even though both of them were 3 times the size of Santa Fe and way more ambitious and needed greater sophistication, We were in shambles internally as to
Hmm.
how we could develop these things. It became clear to me and a couple of the other founders that we needed immediate help. There's not many places you can turn to in the world that do anything similar to what Meow Wolf does. The industry that is probably closest is theme parks, where you're doing these unique multimedia builds. We interviewed somebody who had built large areas of Disney's parks, Ellie Rubenstein. And at the moment we met her, we're just like, we need you. Like, can you come in? Can you help us get these projects on a path to completion? Thank God we did. Those projects got worked into shape and it was hard. It was definitely hard. It was challenging. It was a different working dynamic. It was a different culture that came in and it was fast. It happened urgently. There was a lot of whiplash around it. But those projects opened. And I would say that over the last few years since those projects opened, we've done a really great job of better integrating the various cultures. Themed entertainment has its own culture as compared to
Hmm.
DIY art, totally different
Hmm.
culture. Being able to find how the two actually embrace each other has been a really great process for us. And we're in a much better situation today than we have been in the past around how these things have come together.
That's interesting. It's clear when you compare the Santa Fe location to Las Vegas or Denver that is wildly different. Like
Yeah.
there's like a certain, I don't know what to say, like polish on some of the art. I'll admit Santa Fe is still my favorite, but like there's a lot of reasons for that, right? But like there's some sort of level of polish in Denver and Las Vegas. I've yet to see the Texas location, but like this, it's just it's fascinating and like so pro, I guess is the way to put it. Maybe
Yeah.
does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. And we understand this too. Like there's a real value in the amateurness. And it's not even
Mhm.
amateurness because it's not that. It's
Right.
being about problem solving and
I was
and
calling it like democratic art, like more
yeah,
democratic art. Yeah.
and seeing in the work that there's a human behind it, first and foremost, that there's humans
Mhm.
behind and that the humans are attempting something that is challenging, that can't just be figured out and designed ahead of time, you know?
Yeah.
At the same time, we wanna build really dynamic and incredible pieces that do take structural engineering, technological integrations, and professional design build capabilities. We're always in relationship between where's the soul of the work, where's the passion of the artist, and then where's the action of the company. And that's something that I mean, it's actually rooted in it's it's rooted a lot in psychedelic characteristics. Most creative companies, when they've launched, are closer to that spirit. Like they're closer to the creative spirit. And you can look at MTV or Disney itself, and you can feel it. It's palpable at the beginning. It's like, wow, this is just like creative energy and the willingness to exist outside of structure. It's similar to the sort of promotion, I think, that like neurologically that like psychedelics helps with, which is like, hey, like you can live outside of the structure of your identity. It's okay to explore, go for it, see it, feel it. But then over time, all of these creative efforts end up getting over structuralized and over controlled, and that spirit gets completely dampened. Mm, That's the challenge that we have. Hardly any other creative company has been able to achieve, which is can we maintain the spirit more than creative companies? Any entity like humans, how can you as a human, you start off as a kid, that spirit is happening, right? And then over time, the structures, identity, control, fear of the unknown, routine, and habits come in. And before you know it, you're a shell of yourself. So it's a challenge not only for companies, it's a challenge for individuals. Like, how do you maintain the spirit of the kid, that has direct relations to creation energy? So anyway, that's what we're up against is how do we maintain that? How do we keep those channels of spirit going?
It seems like play is one of those avenues.
Yes.
So like, being able to come to these party spaces and like being with your friends and new people, people of creative, interest in with musicians helping, create a dance environment or an introspective environment. I think those are all helpful tools. And when certain places, it's easier to explore substance and like figure out how that might be able to support creative process and a lot of things there.
Yeah, for sure. When I talk about psychedelics and Meow Wolf's relationship to psychedelics, I actually like to detach from the substances. There's a psychedelic realm that artists tap into all the time.
Hmm.
And that's what we're expressing, trying to get it as direct and pure with the realm of the imagination and bring people into that realm. It's independent of substances. Of course, substances are an access point to that, but so are various elements of meditation. So is dream. We access it every night when we go to sleep. It's about keeping connection to that realm and having systems and processes in your organization or identity that can maintain access to that realm.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah. And I don't know that we've talked about this at all, but my background is like deeply in the gruff, like holotropic breathwork world. So I did probably 7, 8 years of holotropic breathwork before even trying. Yeah. So I'm with you. And it's like I was having a conversation with somebody at a Chacruna conference after party last night, and I kind of got into that a little bit. It's like, what's the most interesting thing here? It's like, well, it's already in you. It's
yeah,
just where is it in you? And it's not the LSD that gives it to you. It's not necessarily the case that the mushrooms give it to you in a different way, but it could be. But yeah, it's already there, and you're already pretty magical. But how do we unfold that in
yeah.
some way?
A big thing for me recently has been in October this past year, I got initiated into Kriya yoga
Mm, mm.
and has been a remarkable practice where it's always there. It's always in me. It's always accessible. It's just like 45 minutes and 4 square feet of space. I can get there.
That's brilliant. So I found the list of all these artists. I want to run through it. The folks that are going to be at the Portal event on Bicycle Day. We already talked about Reggie Watts and Duncan Trussell. Got LP Giobbi, who is doing her Dead House thing, which I had the opportunity to see in February. It was quite interesting. I might have been under the influence of too much LSD. I don't know for sure, but I need to give it a retry. But I'm a fan of her work generally. I think I've seen her at Burning Man. I've seen a lot of her YouTube. So I'm a huge fan of LPGOV. You know, like Danger Folly. I think it's a Denver DJ. Q, who I've seen a few times in Denver. Hunter Legit. David Satori, I think he's from Dirtwire, maybe. And Beat Antique. Do you know if that's accurate? He'll do some, yeah. He'll be doing a sound journey, ecstatic dance, which sounds fun. Back Alley Bass with Spot Lab. Then there's Zach Leary doing story time. I always love Zach's stories.
Yeah.
Dennis Walker's doing Playboy Billionaire Shamanism, which is going to be brilliant, I'm sure. Looks like a screening of the Ram Dass Journey to Now documentary, maybe. The Lunatics from Frick Frag Blackjack will be out in operation, which I'm a huge fan of those people. They're so funny. And then the Cotton Pathogenics folks, it's fun. I like Stephanie a lot. You're going to be there. Oh, it looks like opening remarks from you and Veronica Lightning Horse Perez, who's a friend as well. So that's great. And it looks like there's all sorts of other stuff that's still to be announced, which is lovely. So that's awesome, Vince. Do you know anything about the bicycle ride component?
I don't know anything about the bicycle ride component. I'm glad that there is one though.
I'll try to get some more info for the audience on that one. I'm excited. I'm planning on hopefully being able to do the whole bicycle ride and hang out for most of the event as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
really
nice.
pumped on that. So I want to jump back to creativity and art. In this strange time, art becomes more important. If we look at when Warhol was active or other major 60s musicians and painters, it was kind of an important cultural ballast. Do you see any kind of analogies to art lately?
Anytime there's a feeling of confinement or
Mhm.
questions as to like where the world is going, there does seem to be an instinctive response for us, which is dive into the creative and dive into the art making, the music making as a respite and maybe as a reminder of the North Star. At least that's how I think about it. Nature has a funny way to it, and in nature is destruction. Nature's not all butterflies and rainbows. There's death. There's all sorts of aspects of the natural environment. It's kind of like when you're in the deepest parts of winter, it's sometimes hard to remember that spring is on its way. and that summer will be here. Thinking about that culturally or on a global scale, going to art and creativity is a reminder of what the North Star is. Like all of these struggles and all of this evolution that we've been going through, and all the sort of pain, conflict, you know, it's all for for this potential dream. That's how it feels to me energetically.
Mm.
There's always a pump trolley effect where confinement comes in to restrict and even oppress. It pressurizes the creative spirit, and the creative spirit can't help but to then like express greater and push harder.
Mhm.
And then it does, cultural revolution of the 60s. That same mechanism of structure and control tries to bottle that up, like marketability and defining it. I think about the grunge movement. It's like grunge was this creative spirit push. And then very quickly, Rolling Stone and MTV and, all these media outlets like defined it as grunge and made it a product, which is a sneaky way to codify it and then restrict it. Ultimately, I think creative spirit wins out. At least that's my hope. At least that's what I have to believe, that the creative spirit wins out over time. Anyway, that's my take.
As I was hearing you say all that, I'm like, okay, so the constriction comes and then the subconscious creative pulse flows out. And it doesn't necessarily have to become music or painting or whatever. It could take all sorts of interesting forms, but it's like it has to, it goes somewhere, right? Like,
Somewhere.
I think we can see analogies in psychedelia, like from how we understand the psyche in a lot of cases. These kind of repressed things are going to express somewhere. And yeah, and I think in generally great ways. I think it's like a fun way to look at it. It's like, is this just this larger impulse towards life? Is this just life energy finding its way? And like you're saying, creative force, and it might be the same thing. And yeah, I love that. Life finds a way from Jurassic Park. It's kind of like
Really.
one of my favorites.
Really. You can see it on larger scale, like geopolitical scales, where like look at the explosion of Berlin or Tokyo or Eastern European countries, the incredible creative cultural explosion that followed largely oppressive regimes.
Mhm.
And see it from that perspective. Right now, there's a lot of things are really shitty about what's happening in America, undoubtedly. This community, especially, it's interesting how gray area it is in a lot of ways where people fall on that. But I think ultimately the embracing of the other, the expression of the other, and fighting against oppression is that we should always keep in our heart.
Mhm. So going in a slightly experimental direction, has the larger Meow Wolf team looked any kind of, this is potentially unethical, but Jurassic Park style experience? Now that we're getting really close to bringing woolly mammoths back and exciting things like that.
I would say the closest thing, the topic that is the most questionable from an ethical perspective and falls squarely into the industry that Meow Wolf's in is, where does AI fit? And what is AI and how does it fit? And where does it not fit? I think most importantly, we talk a lot about promoting creativity and getting others to be creative. Creativity isn't about the finished image, it's about the process you go through to get that image, sculpture, or aspect of your life that you put energy towards creating. Like, and that's one of, goes back to what I was saying earlier. That's like a process of envisioning, believing, and then working at it. Those are invaluable traits with certain AI platforms when it comes to like kind of creative AI platforms like Midjourney or otherwise. It bypasses those. It's no creativity here. There's a finished image, but there's no creativity here, And so I
Mhm.
think that we talk a lot about that and the significance of the creative process versus the output.
I imagine you all spent some time kind of, what's the word you say, like characterizing a lot of these differences, spending time actually working it and thinking through it and
Yeah,
discussing with each other. Yeah.
maybe more than we should, but it's endless because it's a very esoteric and ambiguous thing. you know? And so we do talk about our processes quite a bit.
Mhm.
But at some point, you just have to make.
Mhm. I was thinking about this recently about how like, it's such a big topic, but you're right, it is esoteric, but it's, like, the most present esoteric thing in culture right now. It's like the giant Cthulhu in your closet that's a little bit too big, and you just don't know, like, what it's gonna do in 1 year or 10 years. I'm kinda curious, like, is there like, from the artist perspective, like, what is some of, like, the more hopeful aspects with leveraging AI or creative tools like that?
So there's already areas that embrace it. There's like our sound team, for instance, we create soundscapes that want to be generative, they want to feel organic, so we create the sound, but then how that sound moves around space or how it might undulate or move through different types of sounds, like you can't sit down and script that. And so we lean on generative software, generative systems to create that. Similarly with characters and dialogue, we don't want it to replace the human. We don't want the writer to be replaced. The writer is really important in developing the dialogue that then a generative system can take the at least the semblance of autonomy for these characters. I think that's interesting to us. I mean, really interested in the autonomy of fictional characters,
Mm.
the sentience of fictional characters, because soon fictional characters are going to be aware of Earth and aware of their space. Like they're going to be aware of your living room. And I see fictional characters as real. We have this like dichotomy. We have this like veil, between the nonfiction and the fiction, but that veil is getting thinner and thinner. And for me, I want to honor these fictional characters as being real. At least that's how I feel about them. AI is an important component as to how fiction can be realized, I guess.
That, like
The artist is the vessel. The artist is the medium,
mhm,
the writer, the medium. And when I I don't think ever should AI be that vessel, because AI doesn't tap into the imagination. Humans tap into the imagination, you know?
yeah, AI is kinda like tapping into the artifacts of human imagination, not imagination directly, and yeah, there's some, like, fun Terrence McKenna stuff that was coming up for me around, like, his perspectives in the '90s around us just being able to increasingly be able to extrude our imagination into reality, which is kind of, like, becoming more and more true, especially with democratization of 3D printing and all these other interesting things, and yeah, I liked your line around sentience of fictional characters and the reality of fiction. This is something to really explore. If we're experiencing it, there is some reality to it if it's part of experience. And like that's something to really think about. I
Totally.
really
We've been on a ferocious path for whatever reason, and it's a path we can't seem to stop, even if we recognize its dangers. We seem
Mhm.
we seem to not be able to stop this trajectory, which is like the thinning of the veil between what's real and what's imagined. This is the paradigm shift. This is McKenna's singularity. This is the 2012 novelty theory, and I think we're still in process of. But like, or the fifth world, as other cultures and religions have pointed to. This is the paradigm shift that I think we're in the midst of, that we've always been on the journey towards. It's like if you ask the question, how many things in 10,000 BC came from the imagination? And then you ask yourself, how many things in 2025 come from the imagination? Look around the room you're in or the room I'm in. It's like this crazy
Mhm.
curve that took a vertical during the Industrial Revolution and the burning of fossil fuels. There's a relentless create from the imagination. Now add VR into this, and we're obsessed with it. And it's like, to what end? Until we're fully in it, like until we're always in it fully, like a dream. That's what we seem
Mhm.
to be best with getting to. It's like nature wants to get there and we are its vessels.
Thank you for that. That was the trippiest thing yet today for me. That was awesome. Yeah, we have a really difficult time understanding exponential functions. And somebody was talking to me recently about these hockey stick graphs, and the hockey stick's like right up to our nose right now. We just can't even understand where it's going. And, there's some interesting thinkers on this that provide some hope. I think like Peter Diamandis used to have some really good stuff in books like Bold. So it's like kind of hopeful about where this is ending. But, we'll see. And I'm curious, since we're at psychedelics day, do you see hope coming from psychedelics for art or for humanity in any interesting ways?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Like,
Hmm.
I think that just tying it to the conversation we were just having, if playing that out, thinking out is to what end, essentially reality becomes the medium. A series of alternate realities is basically what's going to end up being created once the imagination is what we're fully in. So then that begs the question, what reality do you want to be in? It's different for this medium, for the medium of reality than it is other mediums. Like when it comes to like a film, the medium of cinema, it's okay for me to watch a horror film. But once the medium is reality, I don't want that. I don't want that expression in the medium of reality. It's going to be scary as fuck. Nobody wants a bad trip. I think it's really important for beauty, magic, love, and wonder, and hope to be key characteristics in the medium of reality. I firmly believe through psychedelics, we open ourselves up to those characteristics. We can see them, we can feel them, we want to create them. And I think that's really important because we don't want the alternate realities to be driven only by people oriented. Otherwise, QAnon cannot be the only type of alternate reality. That would be terrifying. Zuckerberg's horizon world cannot be the only other type of alternate reality. We want alternate realities that are magical and wonderfully beautiful. That's where the expression that we bring forward from DMT, LSD, psilocybin, meditation, or from our dream world is really important. And that's us helping people with trauma and helping people overcome like the fears and the anxieties of their past, which are all part of that bad trip, that like negative alternate reality, It's all freeing people from that reality construct.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Vince, it's been amazing. I hope we get to do more.
I'd love
I don't know if you get the opportunity to wax poetic like this publicly too often, but I found it brilliant.
Thanks. I can't help
Yeah,
myself.
that's so good. Just to remind folks, April 19th, Bicycle Day, Meow Wolf, Denver. If you're around, it would be amazing to see you there. Vince will be delivering some open remarks. A lot of other fantastic folks are going to be there. I'll be there. And there's a bicycle day bike ride organized by Portal before the event. So I'm planning on a full day in Denver. Can't wait.
Thank you for having me, Joe, and thank you for all the work that you do and have been doing. And so excited about being on this podcast specifically. So thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Until next time.
Bye.